KJA Global Channel, The Political System and Me. Series 3, Institutions, Power, Rights, and Accountability. Episode 17, My Public Services, What Government Owes Daily Life. I used to think government was politics. Speeches, parties, debates, elections, leaders, flags, news headlines. But then I learned something simple, something that ordinary people often understand better than many officials. Government is not supposed to be a show. It is supposed to be a service. A political system may argue about ideology. But daily life is not ideology. Daily life is whether the road is usable, whether the clinic has medicine, whether the school has teachers, whether the water is clean, whether the office gives the document without a bribe, whether the complaint is heard without fear. Public services are the point where politics becomes personal. They are how the state touches a mother's mourning, a child's future, an elder's survival, a worker's dignity, a farmer's livelihood, and a community's resilience. The mechanism is already present in ordinary decisions, even when politics appears distant. Assess a public service by mandate, access, quality, equity, complaint mechanism, performance evidence, and corrective responsibility. That is why public services are not benefits. They are obligations. They are what government owes daily life. When citizens say, "We are paying into a system that does not return protection," they are not only complaining. They are naming a broken social contract. This episode is about that obligation. It is about the difference between a state that serves and a state that extracts. When citizens pay taxes, whether directly or through prices and fees, they are funding a shared structure. Public services are the visible proof that the social contract is real. A contract without delivery is fraud. If a government collects revenue but does not deliver basic services, it is not governing. It is harvesting. The system reveal is service mandate and delivery accountability. Public services are the daily expression of the social contract. Their quality reveals whether institutions convert public authority and money into equal protection. In plain language, the hidden mechanism is service mandate and delivery accountability. Public services are the daily shape of the social contract, and a truer measure of freedom than speeches. When services fail, bribes quietly replace rights, and corruption becomes the price of access. Public services include far more than big infrastructure projects. They include the visible services people notice: roads, schools, clinics, hospitals, water systems, waste collection, public safety, identity documents, land records, permits, disaster response, and the invisible systems that prevent daily life from collapsing. A system that fails at services produces citizens who must beg power for what should be normal. So public services are not only technical delivery. They are freedom infrastructure. If public services work, people can plan. Children can learn. Workers can move. Patients can seek care. Families can live with less fear. Communities can recover from crisis. And citizens can trust that government is not merely above them, but responsible to them. Dictatorship may build roads and buildings. But without accountability, these projects often become symbols rather than systems. Development can be concentrated around elite interests. Services can be granted when people obey. Access can depend on loyalty, identity, connection, or silence. But public services are not gifts. They are obligations. A state that gives services as favor can also remove them as punishment. A democratic system must turn services into rights, standards, budgets, duties, records, and remedies. When services are devolved responsibly, communities gain ownership and service quality can improve. Local needs become more visible. Local officials become more answerable. Local complaints can reach the responsible institution more directly. But national standards still matter, because fairness must not depend on where a person is born. This is the balance. Services close to the people, standards equal for the people, and accountability available to the people. The hidden structure becomes traceable through the governance chain. Constitutional rule. Institution. Policy. Budget and capacity. Official action. Human experience. Review and correction. Each arrow asks a different accountability question. What rule authorizes the service? Which institution has the duty? What policy defines the standard? What budget and capacity support delivery? What official action was taken? What human experience resulted? And what review or correction can repair failure? A broken service may begin far upstream. The visible harm may be a closed clinic, a corrupt office, a collapsed road, an unsafe school, or a missing document. But the deeper failure may begin in an unclear mandate, an unfunded institution, a hidden record, a captured contractor, weak inspection, political interference, or a complaint route that exists only on paper. The chain prevents us from reducing a service failure to one personality. It identifies the point where law, capacity, evidence, oversight, or enforcement stopped working. When citizens and professionals can locate that break, criticism becomes more accurate and reform becomes more practical. For this episode, the principal mechanism is service mandate and delivery accountability. The production graphic must make every link readable on a phone screen and must label country-specific or proposed arrangements honestly. Under dictatorship, public services are shaped primarily by concentrated command. Information is restricted. Institutions answer upward. Challenge may carry personal risk. Services may exist, but citizens cannot safely question quality, access, cost, discrimination, or corruption. The service system becomes a tool of control rather than a structure of public duty. In a fragile democracy, formal rules may exist while patronage, unequal capacity, corruption, politicization, or weak enforcement makes protection inconsistent. One office may serve honestly while another demands payment. One community may receive attention while another is ignored. One complaint may be heard while another disappears. People begin to ask whether rights are real or whether access still depends on connection. In a functioning federal democracy, authority is constitutionally distributed, common rights remain enforceable, and more than one institution can question, review, or correct harmful power. Service responsibility is clearer. Budgets are more visible. Standards can be monitored. Local delivery can be corrected. and citizens have stronger routes to complaint, review, and discipline. Elections, or federal language, do not substitute for functioning safeguards. The viewer should compare who decides, how authority was obtained, whether records are public, whether affected people participate, and whether complaint, review, and discipline are available in practice. The constructive question is not merely what values we declare, but what institutions make public services reliable. The minimum guardrails are: 1. Merit-based recruitment and promotion. 2. Clear mandates and service standards. 3. Transparent decisions and records. 4. Political neutrality and conflict of interest controls. 5. Complaint, review, and discipline. These safeguards work as a system. A published rule without an independent reviewer can become theater. Oversight without records cannot see. Participation without safety can expose people. And a remedy without enforcement does not repair the harm. Global relevance. The institutional test for public services applies across political labels. Who decides? What limits power? What information is public? Who participates? And whether a real correction or remedy exists. Myanmar relevance. Use ordinary lived experience only where it clarifies the mechanism. Avoid turning Myanmar into dramatic background or implying that one national experience fits every society. Here is the civic practice for this episode. See and ask. List the core services you depend on: health, education, water, roads, waste collection, public safety, documents, permits, records. Rate honestly which ones work, which ones fail, and which ones require a bribe or connection. Verify. Examine one service charter, eligibility rule, performance report, complaint route, or inspection record. ACT. Rate one public service against mandate, access, quality, equity, complaint mechanism, performance evidence, and corrective responsibility. Report only through safe, legitimate channels. Where public reporting is unsafe, complete the exercise privately. Review. Record whether you can name the responsible institution, evidence, safeguard, or remedy, and one safe next step. Use only lawful, proportionate steps. Do not convert an educational exercise into a public accusation. A constitution without accessible schools is paper without future. A budget without delivered services is a promise without proof. A ministry without accountability is a building without public duty. Public services are the daily evidence that government is not a predator. They are the daily proof that society is organized for human life. In the next chapter, we will confront a force that destroys public services and corrodes every institution: corruption. Not as a slogan, but as a system. Because corruption is the enemy of daily life, the thief of public money, and the architect of hopelessness. The principle to carry forward is this: public services are the daily expression of the social contract. Their quality reveals whether institutions convert public authority and money into equal protection. Ask yourself, what part of public services should I now examine more truthfully, safely, and precisely? Good intentions depend on character. Public service depends on institutions. In the next episode, we continue with my corruption reality: how systems rot from inside. Continue the playlist, use the worksheet, and keep the practice safe, truthful, and disciplined. The system shapes our lives. Our participation shapes the system.
Subscribe.
Learn. Participate. Shape the future. KJA. Knowledge justifies authority.